quickly reintroduce myself?
Yep.
I actually started taking your first initial class, and I signed up, under your lifetime lifetime student thing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed your class at that time. At that time, my focus was very much fear-driven. I was out of a job for a very long time. I was on food stamps. I was primarily trying to do something to make myself more marketable against a lot of people who had just been laid off. However, I've always seen the larger picture of what you're trying to do, and I'm joining again kind of with a broader mindset and starting from scratch.
Well, you've come out of a tough situation. Have things gotten better?
Yes, yes. Gainfully employed and not too afraid of that changing. I don't think they'll have another repeat of what just happened. So yeah, much better.
Well, great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And so what are you working on? What's your idea?
We shall determine that. It's something I've been thinking about it since I realized, like in the past week, that you are absolutely something that I can do now, at least participate probably for the first hour during my work day. So that's very exciting. But I really haven't thought about it in a while. It's kind of always been in the back of my mind. But my initial ideas, again, were very pandemic focused. I really wanted to focus on how to be a good remote leader. I don't think that that's not a bad topic anymore. It's just not necessarily one that I have a huge passion for.
So you still want to write something, but you're not sure what it is.
Correct. I'm actually just going to start from page 1 and do the exercises and figure out my genius zones and what resonates the most and what would have the most value to other people.
Do you have a recent copy of the workbook?
I actually just sent a request via a different Facebook account. I couldn't find it in my emails. I was trying to look at it so I could review it last night. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it. I'm not even on the same device as I had back then, so I didn't have a download. I know that you do have a link in your Facebook group, so I just sent a different request for that.
Yep, and I just put the link in the chat as well, so you can download the latest copy of it there.
Yay.
It's progressed quite a bit over the last 3 months, I would say.
Well, and I haven't seen it in a couple of years, so this is
right.
Going to be
So
fantastic.
It's come a long way since then. It's still not totally finished, but it's finished, but now it's going through editing and refinement.
Yeah, I saw that you're looking for some help with the editing. I'll definitely, as I'm reading through it, let you know anything that I see.
Yeah, please do. Thank you. But yeah, that's the place to start. That should help with coming up with ideas and thinking through all the different.
Yeah, I remember the Disney thing. Very cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Well, great. Well, did you come with any specific questions today, Nicole, or was it more to attend and just kind of get in the flow of things?
Really just to kind of attend and get in the flow of things.
Okay, great. So I'm curious, what are you doing for work right now then?
So I'm an IT project management consultant, and that's been my career. And so I'm probably going to write something related to that. I have been thinking lately about doing a blog, and initially was having a hard time coming up with, I have a lot of great stories, but I'm not really sure that I want to provide something of value. And I don't know that I want to write, maybe I intersperse content for like beginning project managers and how to tackle different things. But I think perhaps the intersection of being an IT project manager and being a full-time consultant, because that's all I do is consulting. I'm not an FTE anywhere. Briefly during the pandemic because I needed a job. But even then I was working through a consulting agency. But I actually select the companies and projects I want to work with. And there's a number of challenges that are unique to being a consultant that are different from somebody who is, more mired within the organization itself and is looking to build their career within that specific one organization.
Interesting. Have you talked to I mean, maybe it's premature for this, but have you talked to other, I mean, kind of your audience, other project managers or beginning project managers about your ideas?
I've only spoken to my best friend from high school. We reconnected maybe like 5 years ago and found out that we ended up being the exact same thing and having the exact same career path. And
Huh.
we hadn't seen each other in like more than 30 years. So she's my closest confidant for that kind of stuff. But just sort of talked about again, I didn't know I was going to be able to take this class for a long time. Something at the back of my mind was kind of throwing around ideas of doing a blog. She's kind of interested in doing some YouTube stuff. So just kind of played around with ideas, but not much beyond that. And sort of I keep a notebook and I kind of jot down ideas for what might be useful content, those types of things.
Got it. Um, you talked about setting up a blog and creating content that way, which I think is a great idea. It's an easy way to test out content without making
Yes.
commitment that a book is. What about like LinkedIn and just doing short posts on LinkedIn? Is that something you do or have thought about doing?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to start out with an audience at all. And kind of want to start in a safe place where I have full control. During the pandemic, I did actually just post one article, and it was about sort of how to navigate the struggles of being unemployed during the pandemic, because myself and a lot of other people were sharing really kind of dark stuff of feeling worthless, those types of things. And
Mhm.
I wrote it really to reassure, sort of those friends who were the people who read it before I posted it, as well as kind of even talking to myself, right, as I was going through that. And I think like it got 3 likes, and I felt like, I, uh, I have dark humor. I didn't really, but I kind of felt like, yeah, I want to like, jump out the window. This does not feel good at all. Like I just wanted to take it back down.
Yeah.
I think someplace where I can post things and I don't care if I'm the only one that sees that 3 people saw it, but to have the whole world know that only 3 people saw it's just a little hard on my ego. So as I'm
Mhm.
kind of developing and honestly, I got some inspiration actually from one of my favorite YouTube creators, who was sharing just kind of an off of his normal topic thing, saying the thing that made him start, like 10 years ago, making any videos at all, was somebody inspirational who said something along the lines of, if you're going to create, you have to be committed to creating a large body of work that sucks and that
Mhm.
you have good taste. So you will know that it sucks, but that's part of the process of learning how to make it better. You're not gonna write, you know what I mean? Of course, we know we have drafts, but you're not you're gonna suck for a while, and that's how you get to the good stuff. So that made it a little bit less scary. And also, this is somebody who I um, respect very much. I don't know if you've heard of CoffeeZilla.
Hmm. No, I
Mm.
don't think
He
so.
he debunks crypto scams. He's actually brought down a number of high visibility people, and he's only got a couple million subscribers right now, but he's definitely on an upward trajectory. He's on a Hulu thing right now as well. Anyway, he was the one who said that, and I'm sort of proud of his career and how he kind of does that all himself with his own research and knowledge. Yeah, and I guess that kind of got me on my way.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. Content is kind of like baseball. Sometimes you get on base, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get a single, sometimes you get a double, sometimes
I
you
don't
get a
know
home
what any of
run.
that
But
means. I'm sorry. I never learned baseball.
well, I'm not a baseball fan either, but I played Little League when I was 6 years old. That's about the extent of my knowledge. But the point is,
You
sometimes
win
stuff
some, you
works,
lose some.
sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to lose more than you win, but the way that you win is by losing because that's how you learn how to win. And with LinkedIn, consistency and time are two of the factors with success. And so you have to put in a lot of effort without seeing much results before you start seeing any results. And that is difficult
I have a
because you,
strategy for that. Um, that will kind of protect my ego somewhat and stop me from being completely discouraged after the first blog post, is I'd like to create a body of work, 25, 50 articles, and post them, post one, and then the next week post another one. And maybe the third week I'll write one that's germane to a topic that's in the news, but then I have something else to follow, so I have a body of work. So if I didn't get any, maybe I try a different article on something else to see how that goes. But that kind of puts a buffer, and I can be writing as well and kind of always kind of have that backlog. So I'm not just dry and whatever day I'm posting, like that night before up at midnight crying.
Yeah. Something else with LinkedIn, it's tricky because so much of it is not your content. It's the algorithm and how the algorithm works and what it favors and doesn't favor. So just real quick, since I wrote a book on LinkedIn, I have to talk about this, but with LinkedIn.
Yeah, you were in the middle of that when I was in the class before.
Yeah, I finally finished it. It's out there. And in fact, I'll upload a PDF copy.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Let's see. Let me just find it here real quick. Oh, looks like that's the last thing I sent. So that was easy. Okay. Okay, that is now in the chat as well. You can download a PDF of my book there. But the
60
quick
days,
story.
I like the time boxing. That's great.
So it's 60 short lessons. You can spend about 5-10 minutes on each one a day. At the end of 2 months, you'll be an expert on LinkedIn. But the simple thing on LinkedIn to understand is, and let me actually share my screen here. Here's a post that I made today. It's got one like.
Moving you to the big monitor. This is a little tiny for me. Hold on.
But here's my post. I've got one like and one comment, and it's been up for 2 hours.
If you don't mind, I'm just trying to get this big enough so I can actually read it.
Yeah.
It's not letting me drag to another monitor. So my other option.
Let me zoom in.
I can see that. Thank you.
Is that a little bit better?
Yes.
But you can see there, I mean, I've got one like on this. It's been up for 2 hours, and I've got one comment. So my posts don't always do fantastically well straight out of the gate either. If we look back at my recent posts, let's go look at more of them. Let's see. Okay, so the one I put up 2 hours ago, that's been seen.
You can see your analytics. You had 140 impressions though. Okay, that kind of makes it a little better.
But that just means that it showed up in the feed. It doesn't even necessarily. Okay. So that doesn't even necessarily mean that somebody saw it.
They scrolled. Yeah.
Yeah, they just scrolled by it. It just showed up in the feed. That's all that means. So now this was a newsletter I sent out yesterday. And then I send that out. I send the link to this on LinkedIn out to my email newsletter. So I can boost the results there. But newsletters don't get a lot of traction on LinkedIn. And so I can write this huge, great article and hardly anybody sees it. So here's another post. Now that one has 1,700 impressions. It's got 23 likes, but it's only got 5 comments. And here's 13 comments. This one has 7 comments. Let's see, that was just sharing somebody else's there. There's another newsletter. There's another newsletter. Here's one that has 0 comments and just 6 likes. So there's a lot. Now I have posts that have received thousands of comments and millions of views and thousands of likes, but there's a lot of my posts in here that are just 5 comments, 4 comments, 3 comments, 10 comments. I mean, there's a lot of that here. And so those ones that went huge were really, they're few and far between. But what I do is I just keep posting. And more interesting to me than my per comment posts is actually this stat right here. I keep a look at the total impressions that I'm getting across all of my posts. Let's see. Some other places to look at this too.
A couple of those are me recently.
So, okay, so here's some more. So these stats are more important. The total post impressions across everything, because here I can see a trend. I can really see, okay, but I'm up 105% over the past 7 days versus the 7 days prior to that. So that's good. And I can look at profile views for the past 90 days. Now, I used to routinely hover around 10,000 profile views per month or per 90 days. And so this is way down from what I'm used to. And that's a result of me not posting as much. I used to post quite a bit more than I've been posting lately. And so, but those are some of the stats that I look at because that gives me the bigger picture rather than just looking at one post, because one post is one post. I want to know what the trend is and how my performance is doing overall, because I know that some posts are not going to do as well as other posts. Now, if you want to consistently get more views and likes and comments on your posts, and comments are really the lifeblood of posts on LinkedIn, then the key to that is, number one, don't write these articles on LinkedIn. An article is like a blog post on LinkedIn. They barely get any traffic. Hardly anybody sees them. LinkedIn just doesn't put them in the feed. And so if you write an article, it's almost invisible. Now you can still do it. I mean, I still do it. I send out these newsletters, which are effectively articles. And I still do it because I want to do it. And I've got the content, but I don't expect much from it. And if you add photos or especially links to a post, it often kind of kills it. Now, photos or graphics can be hit and miss, but links definitely are the worst. If you put a link into a LinkedIn post, they just hide it. They kill it. They do not want you taking traffic off of LinkedIn and shoving it somewhere else. So if you post a link, just be aware, hardly anybody's going to see that post. The
Josh,
post that,
can I interrupt you briefly to just kind of let you know? So I'm kind of my feeling with LinkedIn is sort of along the line. I do want to learn how to have more engagement because that's where I get jobs. However, there's sort of a don't defecate where you eat thing where LinkedIn is not where I want to be experimental. LinkedIn is where I don't want to be seen as somebody who posts a lot and always gets 2 likes. I want to be seen as confident and successful and competent. And it's, I think, better for my career at this point to not have something where people can see how low that engagement is. I would rather, if I was doing anything, have my own blog elsewhere and maybe link to it, and maybe nobody likes it and nobody sees it, and that's totally fine. But maybe one person does and they go over there. But and maybe I can leverage it as something within my space where I'm trying to get jobs from people, usually every 6 months, that it builds credibility. I have a blog out there, as opposed to the opposite, whereas like I talk a lot and like 2 people are listening.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, so short version, if you want to get traction on LinkedIn, just do plain text posts with nothing else in it, just text. And invite people to comment, ask people to comment, say, what do you think? I'd love to hear what you think. Invite the comments. If you invite the comments, you ask questions that people want to answer, that's how your posts will get a lot of traffic on LinkedIn. So plain text and ask for the comments.
Okay.
So that's the short version on things.
Fantastic.
All right. Well,
Virginia.
yeah,
Yeah,
Virginia, how's your project going?
it's going. I mean, it's I wanted to share some insights for Nicole, just some things I've had to learn in life. That a very, very big thing for me to learn once. I used to worry about what other people thought of me until I realized how seldom they do. They're not thinking of me, they're thinking of themselves. And that really, really helped me a lot. And
I think I got that one down. However, there's a certain way that you present yourself when you go to a job interview, and that's LinkedIn. So I want to show up in my best suit on LinkedIn, and then I can be, doing my crazy thing over in my blog and be as unwatched and uninterested, you know what I mean, or laughed at as possible. And I'm okay with that.
Okay, no, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying some things that that helped me because and then another thing, when I published a short story, and so I am now published in an anthology with 10 best-selling authors, and so now
Good.
I am legitimately.
Congratulations.
Thank you, but I am, and it took me, by the way, 9 years to do that. So but all I'm simply trying to tell you, explain is this the space of what you were saying about you have to write a lot of stuff, before before it hits you. That we've all gone through that. But one of the biggest things that that somebody told me as I was starting another book, which, by the way, I almost finished, and then I found out it wasn't going to sell a lot. So I mean, it's all part of the process. But that when people think that they're not an author, or that they could be considered a fraud, they aren't one. Because if you were a fraud, you wouldn't even think about it. Con artists don't think that way. So those are just those are just some suggestions that I'm sharing from having gone through the a lot of the work, which I'm still doing now, of stuff that didn't work out the way I thought it would. But in the process, I learned a lot of stuff. I met a lot of people. And then it's sort of like when I buy a house or something, I go from the general to the specific, and all of a sudden, bingo, it all falls into place. And I find that that's kind of the process. So to answer Josh's question, I in my new book, what I'm trying to do now is get this genius zone clear. And I've been
what does that look like for you?
Yeah, exactly. What it looks like for me.
Well, do you have, what are you playing with in terms of what that might be?
Okay. Well, I have a lot of stuff. Josh mentioned that I know a lot of very wealthy guys on Wall Street, which is true. But I also know about dealing with them, working with them, and in terms of the I guess maybe I put it in another way. I'm very good at dealing with people on an AM frequency in an FM world. And that's a lot of those guys on Wall Street. They're
I work in finance. Yeah.
Finance. And I remember the guy that invented the laser beam, Ali Javan. He could invent the laser beam, but he had to have an escort everywhere he went in life because he always got lost. He got on wrong planes, he lost directions. His mind was so focused on one genius that he literally couldn't function in other ways. So I'm very good at working with a lot of those kinds of people. And what I've been talking about recently is working with wealthy. This was initially my idea. Extremely wealthy women over 50 who are divorced, widowed, or empty nesters and want to reconnect with their authentic selves by overcoming self-limiting beliefs through neuroscience-based processes that create new pathways in the brain. These processes produce positive thoughts and life results. And these processes help me realize that you can have the world and not know it. I was then able to replace affluenza with inner peace when my heart and feet hit the ground with gratitude. So, like you, also not wanting, a lot of these people were personal friends of mine. And then I got to a point where I said to myself, do I really want to be publishing information about them? So, in terms of my, to get back to the genius zone, I think being able to deal with those kinds of people, not only am I good at it, I enjoy it. So I think that's very important with your genius zone. But then
I think you may be able to broaden your audience a little bit if you also include never married.
Hey, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. because,
There's a few of us out here.
I'm sorry?
There's a few of us out here.
No, no, but that's the benefit also of this group. We have a lot of fun here and we learn a lot. So, I mean,
Mhm.
everybody very candidly comments with people and respectfully. And I just never thought about that. I'm very well aware of it. I have a couple of friends that are like that are actually pretty good friends of mine. But then I go into all these other skills that I have, which are on a pretty high level. And so I'm not sure, to get back to the
Your genius areas.
the
So
genius.
you don't really want to talk too much about people that you have relationships with, it sounds like. Oh, she's gone.
Whoops, we just lost her. Oh,
Oh, she
she's
come
gone.
back.
I don't know where I went.
You were basically saying that you're not really comfortable maybe writing about people that you have relationships with, so that may be a different direction that you go in.
Well, that was, that's it. But the other part of it is basically knowing what direction that I should go in. And I've been reading a lot of biographies, autobiographies from some women in communications. I was in communications. And to see what they do. These are broadcast journalists. And one of them was Natalie Jacobson, who was on a par with Barbara Walters, but she wanted to have a family and a quieter life, so she didn't accept an offer in New York. And as I was reading her book recently, a whole other set of things came into play here about that business of being able to take highly technical information and relate it to any audience, not just the very top one. But also, she talked a lot about the standards in broadcasting. I went to a meeting once with Linda Ellerby, who was also another broadcaster many years ago, when there was a big switch in broadcasting. And she was very sad because she said, whenever we go to a building and there's a fire and children are dead or serious, awful things, she said, we would never stick a microphone in anybody's face. We would take a picture of the building and some baby shoes and talk about it a little, make a comment. So that's just an illustration of a lot
The
of
reality of that profession has never hit me the way that it did when you just said that.
Well, and it's what I always liked about Natalie was that that she brought sunshine, kindness, and the facts into our house every night. And then I was reading some of this about how she intended to do that. And so so in other words, I guess I have to sort of narrow it because standards like that are very important to me. And the fact my other book that didn't go was about putting the human back into humanity and taking increasing empathy and decreasing violence. And
Oh, now's the time for that kind of message. Absolutely.
so here I am, Josh. I'm trying to figure it all out. Got any ideas? My genius in in putting a lot of that together.
Well, tell me more about the impact that you want to make. Your audience, who your audience is. We touched on that, but tell me more about the impact that you want to make on that audience.
Okay, I want to show, and I think this actually could, and this is the benefit of all this brainstorming that we're talking about here, something just clicked. That is, I was doing a lot of work with neuroscience, brainwave entrainment, and a lot of that stuff, creating new neural pathways to deal with resolving trauma. And I think that's something, I know that a lot of these women that I was talking about, especially after they're divorced, you're not married to a lot of those guys unless you help them a lot, and you can lose a lot of yourself. And that's what my age, I'm 75, so it's different maybe in my age. So this finally doing that, you can deal with significantly lowering depression, all kinds of other things by creating these neural pathways. It's absolutely unbelievable. And so I think that as I said here, it produces positive thoughts and life results. And I would like to do that for those women, because a lot of those women could focus a lot of their resources towards much happier and better work for the planet, use for the planet. So, and I was told flat out that working with women was one of the best markets, lucratively. And I at this stage in my life need to make some money and do good, not just make money. Any of that make any sense, Josh?
Yeah. So when you envision your audience reading your book, what's the action that they would take, that they would like, what do you want them to do? They finish your book, they put it down. What's the first thing you want them to do?
I'm writing these questions down because they're excellent and I'll ponder over them later to envision
I am too.
audience reading your book when they put it down. What do you want them to do? Heave a big sigh of relief. That there is hope and help out there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have
Then-
exercises that would allow them to experience thinking differently to create those, to begin to create different pathways in the way they're thinking?
Yes. And these neural pathways and things are also like creating electronic vision boards, and there are a lot of exercises to do that, but it's really basically, and I think you're right, Josh, this is the core of it all. And I will have either described or illustrated some of that before this, especially that business of having everything in the world and not thinking it's enough. That just, you always want more. So it's maybe, and they wouldn't get this sort of right at the beginning, but they would be, I think it would be, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here, but I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be exercises that make them realize what they already have. And get rid of a lot of wasted energy on always wanting more. You're never going to be happy if you always want more.
You never have enough of what you don't need.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, sure, you never have enough. Just like the extra mile is never crowded. You never have enough of what you don't need.
Whenever I see people who want more, I can tell that they're chasing the wrong thing. If they were chasing the right thing, they'd be satisfied. But when we chase the wrong thing, we can never be satisfied.
Well, and then I was trying to think here of something that I talked about too, as the difference between happiness and fulfillment, I think, and always wanting more. I think maybe that was the difference. That was the difference between the two. But this is definitely the road that I want to go to, because I think that's what's happening with this world. And I think it's one of the big problems with a lot of the young people, that their values are in the wrong place. And a lot of that comes from their parents and their lifestyle. This is just coming to me as I'm brainstorming, which, by the way, is one of my favorite things to do. So that's sort of basically what I'm trying to do here. But then but that's, again, when I say my genius zone, I'm trying to do it because the person that tells me to deal with, who is, by the way, a real guru, we both know him, Josh, that it should be something that only I can do. And that was, where I went to a lot of these, 7, 8, and 9 figure wealthy, very, very wealthy women. And I don't know if that's it, or I don't know if, so that's where I think about the genius zone. I mean, what is you sort of said it in one sentence. you know, about knowing all those wealthy guys, but I don't know if you were kidding or not, but I think that it's something else. It's, you know, I've gone where nobody has gone, and I create something from nothing. I'm able to juggle tasks and reliably produce results. I can quickly build rapport at all levels. I'm assessing situations to maximize outcomes, social justice, and economic opportunity for students. So I got that for students in vocational education.
May I offer a observation?
Sure.
Something that sounds unique to your experience is that um, you have these connections and you have these friendships and you have these relationships with different people who most people don't have those types of relationships. And that sounds like that's where you're going to find your core audience, especially the women of that group. But something that you have insight into that others do not is what their current neural pathways are. What are the things that they're thinking and talking about now where that should be redirected, or where that's not constructive, and they're just actually making those neural pathways into just freeways because they just kind of revisiting the same, I don't have this, I want this isn't right, and rewiring
Slow
that.
this down, Nicole. I love it. Wait a minute, what they are thinking of now. All right, so I wrote here, the current neural pathways, what they are thinking of now, and you said a few other things.
Yeah, because you have that personal experience, you actually know these people personally, and a number of them enough that you can sort of see these patterns. You know specifically what those pain points are. You know kind of what the current neural pathways are that they're revisiting over and over and making themselves miserable. You know you know what those roads are. You know the roads that they need to stop taking and where they need to go in a different direction, because you know the ones that they're taking now that are not productive for them.
Oh, I know them very well.
Yeah, I don't know anybody like that, so I would have no idea.
So I
But
know
that's
them.
something that you know, so you can speak
I
to
used,
that very,
I used to hang out
like
with
you're
a lot,
talking to a friend.
and then I used to hang out with a lot of them, and then I have life. What do they say? Life is what you get when you have other plans, and I was really forced to face it all. And that's actually the point where I think I can really do this and be of help. Thank you very much for that. It was great. All right, so that's one of the things. And then I'm going through something here that these are from tests I took, like enterprise control. I value running an organization, team, department, and making things happen. Creative production, brainstorming, inventing unconventional solutions, making something out of nothing, product or process. I'm motivated by autonomy, financial gain, lifestyle security. My strongest abilities are power and influence. A persuasive communicator, able to tailor arguments, skilled at motivating others, networking, and I'm good at working with other people to motivate them, engender trust, skilled negotiation team.
So Virginia,
So
all these skills are important parts of your genius zone, but Nicole really hit on something. There are two things that are unique to you that only you have and nobody else has, which are the relationships you have with other people and your own story. No matter what other people have in terms of overlap of your skills and your experience, your knowledge, nobody else has your story, and nobody else has the same mix of relationships that you do. And so as you go through your genius zone, list all those skills, but also pay attention to those relationships and your story, because nobody else can duplicate that.
all right, so as you can see, and this was part of my frustration, I put a lot of work into this. I mean, without, establishing all these lists and a lot of that stuff. And one of the things that I've learned is that I don't want to do that anymore. I want to get some results and get moving, and not just, just wait, and that's part of the academic in me too, that, you always have to. I can remember when I started getting into public relations, and I met a lot of these people that would read the flap of a book and write the review, and I would like, you haven't read the whole book, and a lot, so, just a lot of my things I have to learn to grow up and get over. All right, no, that was very, very helpful, and that's it, exactly, and this was sort of where I was going to start next, is that I was going to go back through, and I took courses, and I had exercises and things that really began to, to make me realize this, what I had lost and where my head was, and the things that I used to be able to do a long time ago, that when you get in a position where so many people are jealous of you and they all want a piece of you, you have to develop new skills, and you can sometimes let go of some good ones. So that's where I think I'll go now. So thank you.
All
And
right.
go back to that. No, go back to that. As you said, both, and Nicole said too, she's been very, very helpful today. I hope you come back, Nicole.
I will, thank you.
No, seriously, you've been really, really helpful. And I don't care whether you put your picture on or not. I was just, no, I was just initially putting all, like we do here, we're a pretty open group. Okay, so that's, that's basically where I am.
All right. Do you have any sort of outline, Virginia?
Any sort of outline for the book?
Yeah.
No, that's what I'll be making now because in order to do this, I had to dig up a lot of these files and stuff like that. And all of that has taken a tremendous amount of time. I have them in boxes and stuff I have to dig out. So my next step, well, see if I put it here. I had action steps for my next, which will be, find and organize the journals from the course, highlight my steps and activities that were particularly beneficial, order books on tape. Oh, that's not it. And a couple of the books I was reading along the way that you suggested, just kind of see what other people have done. And then and go over notes from hero books. And that's really what I've been doing. So
Okay.
I've pretty much done a lot of that stuff, but I
Okay.
haven't gone through all of the workbooks and things yet. But
Okay.
something inside is telling me, that's a voice I always listen to, is to go to those workbooks because it will recreate the things that clicked with me about this,
Mhm. Yeah, I'd love to see you get even a very simple outline together, even if it's an outline that you end up totally changing or throwing out. But having that outline is a major step, because then you can look at the outline and say, wait, this doesn't work. This doesn't fit. I need to throw this out. But it really focuses your thoughts and you're talking about getting things moving. You want to get things moving. Getting an outline together is the big step towards really getting your book moving.
Okay, any things I should include in the outline?
Just
It's a workbook, right?
I'm sorry?
I think that may be covered in the workbook.
Yeah, it is in the workbook, but I mean, the simplest outline is just your chapter headings. It's, hey, I think this is going to have 5 chapters, and here are what the chapters are. That's the simplest outline. Or it might be just the sections. Maybe your book has sections and you say, here are the 3 sections in my book. That's a start. That's something. Because again,
That's
once you
doable.
have,
That is doable.
once you have those bare bones,
Yeah.
your mind is going to start filling it in and saying, oh, I had this idea of what I could fit into this chapter. Or, you know what, I thought I was going to have this chapter in my book, but the more I think about it, it just doesn't fit. So I'm going to take that out. But once you have the outline, your brain will start filling in the blanks, and you'll find yourself getting pulled into that book and making a lot of progress. But until you have the outline, your mind doesn't have anywhere to put all this stuff. So that's why we have the parking lot. We have the parking lot so you can have random ideas and just stick them in the parking lot. But once you have the outline, you start organizing things, and it prompts ideas and thoughts that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay, no, that's great. And the other thing is, I'm now finally organizationally finding the boxes of those workbooks of the courses that made, and my journals that made my ideas change. And that's the step I need in order to make the outline. So I'm right where the road hits the rubber now. So now I just have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. You made that seem a lot less intimidating for me as well.
Well, it's a hard step. It's a simple thing, but it's really hard to get there sometimes. I have a client that I'm ghostwriting a book for, and he's an entrepreneur. He's been extremely successful. And
Josh, you have time to ghostwrite books for people? Do you sleep?
I sleep. I
I know you have a family too. Like what?
yeah, it's I'm not sure how I get anything done. I get a few things done. I probably don't get nearly as much stuff done as it appears from the outside, but every once in a while I have a burst of energy and then something gets done. But
My apologies. I interrupted you. You were talking about the book that you're ghostwriting.
yeah, so so this entrepreneur, he's very successful, but he doesn't know himself why he's successful. He just does what he does, and it just comes naturally. And so my job has been to interview him and to figure out what exactly is he doing that's different from what other people do, and how can we create a formula from that that other people can look at and say, okay, I'm going to do these things that Blake does, and then I will have success like Blake has. And it's tough when you ask him and he says, I don't know. So I've had to go just interview him and ask him lots of questions and go look at him at work in his business and talk to other people. And so we've been working on this book for 2 years. And I just got his outline a couple of months ago.
You're making me feel.
Wow.
And it took me forever to figure out just we've got hours and hours of interviews and we've got all these great pieces, but I couldn't figure out, how do we put this together? How do we organize this? And I finally realized I could divide it into 3 parts. There's fixing yourself or working on yourself. There's working on the people that are around you. And then there's the organization itself. And if we divided it into those 3 parts, those 3 buckets, we could fit everything else that he does under one of those things, because he's really big on self-improvement and health and maintaining himself. And we found that that was a key to his success. We found that his ability to help other people to maximize their own potential was part of his success. And then we found that there were things about the way he structures organizations that were also a key. So it's these 3 buckets: the individual, the team, the organization. And once I figured that out, that became the outline. Just those 3 things, which seems really easy. You wouldn't think it would take 2 years to get there, but it took 2 years. But once we had those 3 things, then all of a sudden it became really easy to say, all right, so what do you do with yourself? What are all the things you're doing to help you as yourself, to keep yourself in the right frame of mind, to keep yourself healthy? And just how do you focus on yourself? How do you focus on other people? How do you focus on your organization? It made it really easy to know what questions to ask, and it made it easy for him to answer once we had that simple framework of those 3 things. So that's why I'm pushing the outline for you, Virginia, is that I know from experience, it can be hard to get those simple things, but if you just get those simple buckets, and it might just be 3 buckets, 3 simple things, but once you get it, a lot of other stuff is going to flow and just come out of seemingly nowhere, and you'll find yourself filling up that book pretty quick.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate this, Josh, because you can get to a point, especially when you did all the work I did on the other book, where you just sort of want to say, forget it. And I know there's something I've had friends of mine that are New York Times bestselling authors say to me, you've got a book in you. I just know, they've been saying it to me for years.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get the sucker out. It's really
Yeah. Well, the key to a great book is a great outline. Get the outline in place and the book will follow.
okay. So, and at least I have a focused goal for next week.
All right, great.